Alright, so that may or may not have fixed my encoding overloaded issue. Yell at me in chat if things look like hot garbage, I guess. You'll be here in a matter of minutes. I'll never be able to find a solution in such a short time. I think time is like what we need. And like my mother always said, it's not good to think in haste. We have to find something. No, that's the same person. I'm dumb. We have to find a way to buy some time to get yourself off the hook. Oh my gosh. How can I buy time without upsetting him? He seems as hurried as he is irritated. If I were to ask him for another delay, he would certainly refuse. That's why you have to be sly. Rather than directly asking for more time, pretend you demand a gift from him as token of goodwill. A gift? No, that's not her voice. A gift, that is to say, ask for something so rare and complex it'll be almost impossible for him to obtain it. Thus, even if he manages to give it to you, you will have bought some time nonetheless. And if he doesn't keep his commitment, then it is even better. That is a good idea. However, I have yet to find something to ask him without sounding suspicious. If you were to request some Far Eastern china from him, you could argue that this is not necessary or promise to... Oh wait, no. This is still Kiona. I'm dumb. If I were to request some Far Eastern china from him, you may argue that this is not necessary or promise to buy some after our wedding. You're right. Naima rubbed her chin with a pensive look. Time. We need time. Sorry, I'm fixing my camera angle. All of a sudden, she clapped her hands. I know, Princess. Demand that he gives you the dress and color of time. It is common for a future bride to want new clothes in order to appear as a proper lady in the arms of her spouse. He will not be able to refuse. Princess Time has no color, no tailor, even a fairy will be able to manage to craft such a dress. Naima, you're a genius! Under the influence of relief, Kiona flew into her retainer's arms and consequently went red as a beetroot. Princess, please, this was nothing. That is a beautiful talk sprite. 10 out of 10. The two girls were so happy they failed to notice in time the sound of footsteps in the corridor. Someone knocked at the door. This time there was no place for doubt. It was the king. My daughter, are you here? Quick, Naima, hide yourself under the bed. We cannot let him know you're here. No sooner said than done. Naima slipped under the wooden frame. The white bedsheets easily covered her, and Kiona only had to adjust their length to be sure she would not be seen. I'm coming, father. With shaky hands, the princess opened the door and let the king come in. His eyes were as piercing and hard as an hour ago. She couldn't help but gulp. So, have you considered my proposal? Yes, father. I have pondered and I have come to the conclusion that I simply cannot appear by your side without clothes fit for a queen. I want to honor you, I want to honor you, and that is why I would like to renew my wardrobe a bit before the wedding. The druid's advice immediately came to the old king's mind. The young woman was certainly about to express some whims of hers, and he could not pass on such an occasion to earn her trust. Thus, the king carefully listened to her. Please, speak frankly, dear daughter. I am listening, and I will try my best to fulfill whatever wish you have. Father, please, bear that I ask you for a dress the color of time. The color of time? What a strange whim of yours. However, so be it. I'll stick to my word. You will have this dress tomorrow evening at the same time. And with a solemn look, he left the room, delighted by the hope the heiress had given him. Naima took advantage of this opportunity to come out of her hiding. You've been wonderful, Princess. You've managed to buy enough time to set up a plan. We still have to find one, however. It's better to sleep on it. It's been a long and intense day, and you must be exhausted. Get some rest, and we'll think about it tomorrow morning. You're probably right, Naima. I clicked next, so we must be Yep, the scene transition. It froze there for a second. It's interesting to see. This must be putting some kind of a weight on the Red Pi engine, or my computer can't handle it, one of the two. It might be my computer is having trouble handling it because the encoding overloaded. We'll wait for the encoding to quit being overloaded so it isn't frozen in the stream VOD. You know, that's kind of important. I think I need to turn up the microphone a little bit. Oh, that actually turned it back down. Oops. There we go. That's what I meant to do. So now now my normal speaking voice is a little higher than the desktop audio. That's what I was aiming for. Waiting on the encoding to be done being overloaded. I tried changing all my settings to just the minimum. But it just gives up. I think there's something up with my computer. I need to clean it or something. I don't think we can wait much longer. Come on, please stop being overloaded, encoding. You did not have a problem with this any time before. Maybe turning off the bit cup? I'll turn the bit cup back on if I get an alert, I guess. Because that was the issue was. That was what the issue was. At one point, was the bit cup was too much for the stream. I don't know. It's still just overloaded. I don't quite know. If anyone has any guesses on how to fix this for me, please. Actually, there might be like a graphics intensity setting somewhere in here. No, that's not an issue. That's very strange. Anyway, with a brooding and hazy mind, the princess quickly went to bed. There had to be a way to save herself. I really wish the encoding would quit being overloaded so you guys could see what's going on. That'd be my favorite. And I can't stop to try and fix it now, because we've already started. Oh well. Meanwhile, the king had gathered the most talented crafters of the area, the best tailors that there were, and he ordered them to make this dress in a day, otherwise they would be hanged. Terrified for their lives, they set to work straight away, relentlessly working all the night, while cursing this strange idea. A dress the color of time, what a caprice. I worry that the game is going to crash or something every time I click and it freezes. The encoding is just gonna have to be overloaded. I've tried to fix it. I have all the settings as low as they possibly can go. Unless there's some kind of throttling going on in my actual computer because of battery settings, I'm not quite sure. Let me try changing the battery settings and then changing them back to see if that fixes it. Additional power settings. Oops, I just opened that twice. Sorry. That doesn't seem to fix it. I don't know. Maybe my computer is just not happy. Whatever, we're gonna forge on ahead. On the dawn of the second day, the princess woke up earlier than usual. Kiona was not in the mood to stay abed. She was pressed for time, and her night had been scattered with nightmares and untimely awakenings. The verbena scent was getting overwhelming, almost sickening. She couldn't wait. Someone had to help her get rid of this unbelievable situation. Still in her dressing gown, she sat on the edge of the bed and stroked her hair, waiting for the retainer who was in charge of her toilette. After some long minutes, the door eventually opened. Good morning, princess. Oh, you're already awake? You are late! Or, I didn't sleep very well. Let's go with I didn't sleep very well. Some choices will impact the story later on. Okay, thank you for telling me that. It's a visual novel. There was a neat little blooming flower over there for those of you who can't see at home. That was probably the, like, branching storyline icon. That's nice of them to include that. This game's really, really well done. And it's still a demo, which is surprising. I had a horrible night, Naima. I couldn't get any rest. What's going to happen to me? I'm sorry to hear that, Princess. I understand you're troubled by your father's proposal, but we have to keep calm to find a plan of action. Know that you're not alone. I am with you, and I'm not going to let you down. You're probably right, as usual. Thank you, Naima. The young servant squirms with an embarrassed look. No, Princess, this is no time for flattery. First, I have to take care of your toilet. The servant immediately set to work on that task, still talking. I've thought a lot about this myself, Princess, and I believe it would be wiser to tell your preceptor that you are sick. It would grant us more leeway to conduct research. A very good idea, Naima. Do you already know what to do? You'll probably not believe me, but I saw your mother in a dream last night, and I remembered something. After your birth, it was said that she had given you the fairy's blessing. The fairy's blessing? It's just a rumor, but there could be some truth in that statement. If your mother did leave something useful to you, we could use it to save you. Kiona skeptically stared at the young Moor. I too would love to believe in magic, but these are old legends. I'm too old to be fooled by this nonsense. Naima raised her voice while making wide, frenetic gestures. Everybody ready for wide, frenetic gesture? I know it must sound ridiculous, but I believe in those legends. I think your mother had the fairy's blessing and passed it on to you, and I'm ready to prove it. And how are you going to prove it? I'm going to leave the castle for a day to investigate in the nearby hamlets. Nearby. I'm sure some old countrywoman will be able to give me information about the meaning of this rumor. I'm sure of it. In that case, for my part, I'm going to have a look around the great library. Maybe some dusty books will teach me how to get rid of the madness that has taken hold of my father. Oh, jeez, yawn. Let us part ways and meet again tonight in my bedroom to talk about our findings. May the best of us win. It is a deal, then. You seem quite confident, Princess, but do not underestimate the power of old legends. Magic does exist, and I will prove it. Once done with the toilet, Naima parted from the princess and quickly set off, convinced she had found the best lead. Left to herself, the heiress sighed and went toward the library, but not without dawdling on the way. Laziness was taking hold of her with each step, and everything seemed pointless. Her heart was looking for an escape, but her brain was telling her again and again there was no miracle she could hope for. The only thing she could do in the meantime was to pray. The dust that welcomed her as she entered the dark room only increased her distress. Carrying a candle, she inspected the shelves, looking for a ray of hope. Most of the books the king owned were written transpositions of epic poems, lyric lays, or chivalric romances. Let's read that line again, because I mispronounced like 12 things. Most of the books the king owned were written transpositions of epic poems, lyric lays, or chivalric romances. The few treatises on science were all gathered in a small corner. Liber Simplicis Medicinae. Ooh, Latin. Oh boy. Liber Simplicis Medicinae by the Abbess Hildegard of Bingen. Translated from German. This may be what I need. So, translated from the German into Latin, or does it retain the German title? I don't know. Regardless. She sat down at a table and glanced over the book. Descriptions of plants of medicinal value were passing under her eyes, yet there was nothing of value to her. What was I thinking? No book can get me out of this mess, but what about black magic or alchemy? Am I really this desperate? Kiona closed the treaty of medicine with a pout of bitterness. If the truth was to be told, she had suspected her approach would be unsuccessful, but she had hoped this false sense of action would be enough to regain her courage. What I need would be to bring my father to his senses, and there's no plant that could help me change his mind. Disheartened, the princess put the imposing tome back and decided to spend the rest of the day alone in this dark, yet soothing room. To pass time and forget her sorrow, she grasps cliches, some courtly literature she knew rather well. Is there anything better to forget the passing of time? Cleges, grandson of the Emperor Alexander of Constantinople, and nephew of Gawain from the Arthurian legend, was a brave knight who achieved many feats. Wronged by his uncle Alice, he fell deeply in love with Fenice, who was destined to be the bride of the former. He finds his love reciprocated since Fenice is impressed by his achievements. The lovers quietly suffer, but they decide not to hide and live openly with their feelings. They hatch an escape plan so they can live freely. However, the uncle eventually dies from sorrow, which lets them seize the throne and celebrate their wedding with great circumstance. Kiona closed the book. Since her childhood, she's been told that she was born to become a queen, and she always aspired to become one. She secretly hoped to be married to a king that would be powerful enough, but young as well. She secretly hoped to be married to a king that would be powerful but young enough. She'd hoped to be bound to someone who could have feelings for her. Her chances were infinitesimal. Royal weddings were political above all else. There was no way to follow the wishes of the heart. Yet that possibility still existed somewhere. Somewhere on this earth there could be a Cleges waiting for her to be his Fenice. Putting the tome back on the shelf, the heiress felt even more aggrieved than when she entered the library. Fleeing is never a good option, as Naima rightly said. You forget everything for a while, but reality just hits you more harshly thereafter. As she was returning to her bedroom, Kiona took a look at the amber sky. It would be wiser not to let my father wait indefinitely. If I do not find any solution, postponing my fate would just anger him even further. While walking in the castle's corridor, the princess could not help but feel curious about the results of Naima's investigation. It was their only lead, however implausible it could be. Once in her room, Kiona was welcomed by a great smile on her servant's face. A bit out of breath, with pinky cheeks for having walked for a while, the young girl gave a triumphal look. How did your investigation go, princess? Poorly, unfortunately. What about you? Would you believe it? I managed to find the information I wanted. Witness of your baptism recalled seeing a fairy during the ceremony, and they confirmed that she gave you her blessing. Kiona was startled. She'd never been very superstitious, but like all good believers, she knew higher beings could sometimes play with humans' fates. Could it be that fairies were real after all? Really? The other option was, it is impossible, but we've chosen really because I don't want to be like, no, it's not a thing. Ugh. I swear on my life, during the great celebration that was given in your honor, all the peasants, crafters, and merchants nearby were invited. Some were given the right to get significantly close so they could see the fairy by themselves. I asked several people, there is no doubt about it. And what do you know about this blessing? How can I use it? If I get what the grandmother told me right, the blessing allows you to invoke the fairy to your aid. This is exactly what I need. Naima, it's wonderful, you did it. Not quite so, princess. I do not know how you can call your fairy godmother. I do not even know her name. That is unfortunate. If I have no way to contact her, we're back to our starting point. Not quite so. Now that we know, we just have to investigate a bit further. The oldest retainers in the castle, those who knew your mother fairly well, might know how she managed to talk to that fairy. We just need a bit more time. More time. The sound of someone pounding on the door cut them short and made them jolt. When she opened the door, Kiona discovered a handful of crafters who had come to bring the dress the color of time the king had requested. She was told to wear it and go to the royal cabinet, where she was expected. With an aching heart, the young girl complied. When she entered the room, wearing the dress the color of time, the king was enthralled with her charm. The workers had done an excellent job, especially on such short notice, and the result fitted her like a glove. If the encoding is still just terribly overloaded and you can't see at home, it's an interesting lavender color. I don't know why they picked that one, but it's like a light, it's kind of like almost periwinkle, I guess. Shyly, she then requested a new one. Frantically looking for an idea in her racing mind, she ordered that it would be the color of the moon. The king, who could not refuse her demands, immediately urged the same tailors and embroiderers that had created the previous work to come, and he gave them the same instructions. Once again fearing for their lives, they complied as quickly as possible. Thus began the same little game. The next day, Kiona and Naima hurried towards the kitchens, where most of the castle's retainers met. Looking for clues, the young girls were determined to make the most of the time they were given. It's been so long since I last came here. This place is as restless as in my memories. It was hard not to agree with the heiress. The kitchens were always thronged with people, no matter the time of day. Servants were hurriedly going in and out with a great ball of plates and utensils, while a sweet scent was in the air. The cooks gathered around the great table and chatted in general cacophony while making the kingly meal. If the kitchens are incommodious to you, Princess, you can go back to your quarters to rest. It should be all right, Naima. We're here to investigate. I don't intend to fall at the first hurdle. Very well. Let us question that group over there. They seem to have the gift of gab. No sooner had she spoken, the lady's companion led Kiona to a quieter corner of the room with a firm push of the hand. Two cooks and an assistant seemed more busy talking than peeling vegetables. Oh, that's still too hot to drink. Regrets. Excuse me. They instinctively looked up at the interlocutor. Their expression changed completely upon noticing the princess, however. Whoop. They all jumped in unison, and one of the cooks, bolder than her colleagues, moved forward to greet her. Your Majesty, it's an honor to see you among us today. May I help you with anything? Would you like to know what we're cooking for tonight's meal? Unless you're here to learn details about the preparations for your wedding ceremony? Well, actually, The other cook cleared her throat and elbowed her neighbor. Definitely a wondrous event, right, Aldelphin? Aldelphin. That's how you said that name. He answered with the same awkward tone. Absolutely, Melisande. We're also proud of our princess. The retainers were so profusely complimenting her out of courtesy that the princess could not speak as she wanted. However, she made a second attempt. To return to the reason of my presence, I would like to... Would you like me to guide you through the kitchen so you can admire our work? Naima came closer to Kiona and discreetly whispered to her. Princess, I'm afraid that the retainers will refuse to speak in your presence. They are too scared of displeasing you. I suggest that you play along and follow Alienor, while pretending you're inspecting the kitchens. Meanwhile, I will question Adelpha and Melisende, who seem more flippant. I'll trust you, or this is unfair. I'd say I trust you. I suppose we cannot help it. I will content myself with being the diversion. There's the branching storyline thing again. Be my eyes and ears, Naima. I'm counting on you. Thank you, Princess. I will be worthy of your trust. Have no fear. The heiress immediately took a slightly more commanding tone. Very well. Let us go, Alienor. Show me what you're doing. Right away, Your Majesty. Very seriously, the servant took her role to heart and dragged Kiona a bit further away, to the two other retainers' relief. I thought my heart was going to burst. Tell me about it. Coming here unannounced should not be allowed. They turned to Naima with a derisive look. So what about following Her Majesty all the time? Not too hard? One wrong word and it's the dungeon for you. I would not feel at ease if I were you. You get used to it. Tell me you seem to know quite a lot, and it happens I need some information. A jeering rictus crossed Adelphia's face. Tell us. We'll see what we can do for you. Have you heard this rumor, saying a fairy had been invited to the princess's baptism? The two servants threw knowing looks at each other while giggling. For sure. Melisende added very seriously. Melisende's the guy, gosh darn it. For sure. Melisende added very seriously. We even saw the fairy. He doesn't have the handsome voice, that's not right. Is it true? Could you tell me how to make her appear? I too would like to meet her. We cannot tell you that. Why not? Information such as this needs to be handled very carefully. We have to make sure you're sincere. By doing us a favor first, for instance. I've lost my purse. If you bring it back to me, I'll tell you what I know. And how am I supposed to find it? I left it in the library on one of the desks. May I know what its contents are so I can be sure that it's yours? No way, this is a private matter. Retrieve it or I will not tell you anything. Well, we can look at the table here. The retainers were working on a wooden table covered with victuals, each one more mouth-watering than the last. Question of the day, what does victuals mean? Victuals? Definition. Food or provisions, as typically prepared for consumption. Nice! So it does mean food. I was like, Then we're gonna look at the fireplace over here. Even if it was arduous to guess what was being stewed over the fire, the delicious odor that was coming from the pans put a stop to any sort of concentration. Okay. So now we're like playing a point-and-click adventure game, almost. We get to look around. Oh, we get to choose where we're going now. We could go to the garden, we could go to the hallways. We need to go to the library for our thing, but let's look at where else we can go. There's the library, there's the cabinet, there's the kitchen, which we're in, the garden. Where else? There's a bedroom, probably the princess's bedroom. Wow, this game's really, like, especially for a proof of concept. Like, this might be more than a proof of concept demo, but this is really well done for a demo. So we head to the library. There's a pointing finger here, but let's look at things first. As we glance at the well-stocked bookcases, the retainer cannot help wondering if all those books were useful to someone. Okay, let's look at this table. Naima had always been surprised by how flippantly the books were put in order. It exemplified far too well how neglected the library was. Oop, we need to stay in the library. I thought that was change screens. Library. So let's click on this pointing finger. It's probably what we need for our quest. Naima caught sight of a big leathery purse on one of the desks, just like Adelpha had told her. She took it with hesitation. Still, it is weird that he refused to tell me what's inside. So Adelpha is the guy the whole time. And then what would he do in a library since he doesn't know how to read? Only lettered people come here. Lost in thought, she didn't hear the silhouette creeping behind her back. May I know what you're doing with my purse? Surprised, Naima jolted and turned back toward the interlocutor. You're a big fan of the word interlocutor. It was a young cleric that she'd never seen before. Oh, it's a guy, so back up. May I know what you're doing with my purse? You really cannot take it. I need its contents. How can I know it's yours? Open it. Open it. I have nothing to hide. There's a reed pen and a clay tablet inside. This is the latest register about the distribution of the king's salt. I was looking for my equipment so I could transcribe it on the general register in paper format. Glancing inside the purse, Naima had to admit the young copyist was right. I'm so sorry. 2 kitchen servants told me they lost their purse here and that I had to retrieve it for them. Ah, Adelph and Melisende, I bet. It's nothing, you know. He sat in front of a desk, shrugging with an apathetic look. Alright, yeah, okay. My name is Constantine. Some of the servants had taken a dislike to me when I came here. They've never stopped playing pranks and making fun of me since. I'm used to it now. The lady companion could not help but give a faint, sad smile. I shall let them know what I think of such behavior. That's nice of you. Well, then I have to work on my register. Have an excellent day. We can speak to the Constantine a little more. We can look at these things we already looked at. So we'll head back to the kitchen and yell at them for leading us astray, as it were. Kitchen is this one. There we go. The map responds a little strangely to the mouse movements. You may want to clean that up at some point. So we can talk to Adelpha and Melisende here. Melisende? She came back to Adelpha and Melisende, livid. You got me there, you rascals! Are you not ashamed of disturbing Constantine's work? The poor soul never asked for this. The 2 retainers giggled even more. Oh, it was just a prank. Nothing to get angry over. It's true. It's true. Moreover, he deserves it with a face like his being so serious all the time. Stop this mockery at once. Are you going to tell me what you know, yes or no? Their looks became irritated. We know nothing of the princess's baptism. We hadn't even been born at the time. If you really wish to meet your fairy that much, go see Barthélemy. Barthélemy? Names. If you really wish to meet your fairy that much, go see Barthélemy, one of the king's advisors. He should know something. Yeah, I much prefer that. After meeting Kiona, who was ending her tour with Eleanor, the young servant called the princess over to follow her. The princess followed her at once, too glad to escape. You know, we probably should have looked at other rooms more while we had the chance, because we're here looking for artifacts because of the overarching story. Whoops. This is good tea. Now it's actually at a drinkable temperature, so I can have it. The 2 of them rushed towards the royal cabinet, where the counselors regularly gathered. So now we could go to the royal cabinet. There. Let's look in the bedroom first to see what we can see. We're looking at a dressing table with a mirror. Naima could not help but cast a glance at the dressing table to check her appearance. Oh Almost without thinking, she passed a hand through her hair while whispering. Will you ever notice me? Get noticed by who? Kiona's bedroom. Since she spent most of her time here, Naima obviously knew every nook and cranny of it. Still, there was something almost magical about sitting quietly on this great bed in the absence of the princess. That was unfortunately not enough to justify staying here when there were more urgent matters elsewhere, however. Let's look at this dressing table. The servant's eyes were drawn to a spray of colors, as every morning she brought a new bouquet to embellish the princess's room. Naima was especially proud of today's flower arrangement, and she was counting on doing just as well the day after. Okay, let's go keep looking at other things. Well, we need to go to the cabinet, right? So we'll go to... We've looked in the library already. Let's go to the garden and see what there is to see in the garden. There's a few things. Luxurious plants were growing under the shades of the leaves. This was the place Naima went every morning to pick the fresh flowers that would decorate the princess's room for the day. Let's look at the fountain. The castle's fountain where the retainers came to draw water, which is necessary for a great number of tasks. When the weather is fair, it's tempting to come here to soak your feet in the water, so as to cool off. Even if she was well acquainted with the place, venturing into the garden still represented a breath of fresh air in this world made of stones. Stones? I said stones, weird. Venturing into the garden still represented a breath of fresh air in this world made of stones. This was especially true on a beautiful day like this one. But Naima had a mission. It was in no way the time to dawdle. I suppose we are dawdling. Let's look in the hallway first. See what there is to see there. There's one thing to see in the hallway. Some retainers were making haste through the castle's corridors. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Alright, I guess we'll go to the cabinet now. We have this servant here to speak to. Barthélemy? Barthélemy? We're gonna call him Barthélemy, even though his name ends with a Y. Barthélemy is easier to say. In the flesh. I'm surprised to see you here, Princess. It's been quite some time since the last time I saw you. Well, my presence seemed to upset my father. You are right. Nevertheless, you have grown up so fast. It is a pity not to see you assume the throne in a more conventional manner. A hint of sadness appeared on the old man's face. You who know all, were you present during my baptism? It's said that there was a fairy there. Well, I am astounded that you've heard of this story. To be honest, as your mother's right hand at the time, I was invited to figure prominently. Unfortunately, I fell sick after getting back drenched from an important journey a few days prior, to the extent that I was far too ill to attend the festivities. The princess looked so disappointed she couldn't hide it. However, if you really want to know more, I would advise you to find Jeanne, one of the laundry women. She is a discreet woman whom nobody ever notices, but she knows when and where to listen. She's aware of almost everything happening in the castle, and she must have an acquaintance who could inform you. I will ask her. Thank you, Barthélemy. It is always a pleasure, Princess. Take care of yourself. The two young girls left the council room unsatisfied. You told me you were directed to this man by the servants, but he knew nothing. Unfortunately, those are the hazards of an investigation. Princess. Finding the right person can take some time. I at once hope that people are in my chat and people are not in my chat, because I cannot really look at it very well, given that I have to look at it on my phone. Admittedly, yes, but time is going by, and I cannot afford to wander through the castle in this pivotal moment. I know, I hope we'll have better luck with Jan. Don't have time to wander through the castle. Sounds like that's a great time to wander through the castle. So, do we know where the launderer would be? Maybe in the hallway, because there were servants bustling about earlier. There she is. As she turned round one of the corridors, Naima caught a glimpse of a woman lifting huge baskets of laundry by herself. She stopped walking right away. Princess, I believe this is her. Stay here for a couple minutes. I'm going to talk to her. Are you asking me to wait again? We cannot take the risk of her bowing down to you like the others. Oh, jeez. Sorry. I had something in my throat. We cannot take the risk of her bowing down to you like the others. We're already running out of time. Very well, I'm not moving an inch from here, then. The lady's companion rushed forward to chase the retainer. Excuse me, are you Jan? Oh, yeah, that's me. I heard a rumor according to which a fairy was present during the princess's baptism, and I was told you could tell me more about it. Well, I did hear talk of a fairy story. I don't even know what this accent is. I'm just running with it. The woman suddenly seemed to change her mind. I'm not being tricked to something like that, yeah? What are you afraid of? She pranced about with an awkward look. The thing is, my colleague Clotilda isn't around today, and I don't know why at all. She must have met a boy and ran away with him, but she could come back too. I hope she'll come back. I'm very worried about her. Get straight to the point. Since I don't know if Clotilda's gonna come back or not, I'm replacing her. So no one finds out she's vanished. But that's way too much work for me alone. If you could help big old me to light the candles tonight, I'd go faster. It'd be bad to mess the job up. I promise to help you. That's brave of you. Thanks, gal. I do what I say. I'm gonna bring you to old Victoria. After making a reassuring gesture aimed at Kiona, Naima followed the laundry woman to the castle's inner garden. In a remote nook, an old woman was spinning a thread with the staff of her wheel, while humming to herself. Jan briefly introduced Naima to her friend. So, you want to learn more about the fairy? Exactly. You were here during the baptism, or so I heard. Did you see her? For sure. One cannot forget the face of such a creature. A preternatural presence emanates from fairies. Did you know how the queen managed to summon her, or how to contact her? I would like to meet her. The old woman chuckled. No, that is a rather presumptuous wish, but so be it. I remember it perfectly, since I was in the front seats. The queen had let me sit there as a reward for years of good and faithful service. I saw the fairy hand over a silver whistle to her. She was close enough for me to hear her words. Use this to summon me, she had said. Really? That was not Naima's voice. Really? Naima was taken aback. So there was a way to call the fairy. Impatient, she pressed Victoria from... Victoire? I don't know words. She pressed Victoria for more information. My dog is barking. Why are you barking, dog? Is someone here? Do you know what happened to that whistle? I do not know for sure, but I think it was put away with the queen's belongings. Nobody must have touched it since her death, so it should still be in the disused wing of the castle in one of the cabinets. I gather you cannot be more precise than that. Unfortunately, young lady, you should already be glad that I was able to help you. Nobody here remembers the fairy anymore. Incidentally, if tell me if you see her. I would be curious to know what she's doing nowadays. I will. So we can speak to the old lady again, or we can look at the other things in the area that we've already looked at. We've already looked at the fountain, and we've already looked at the flowers she picked earlier, so... Now we need to go to the disused wing. Where would that be? Garden... Maybe it's in... maybe it's near the library, because the library doesn't get much use? Let's go to the library. The disused wing. Well, there's nothing in the library. Garden, hallway, cabinet. Maybe we need to speak to the one. Well, let's go to the hallway. Maybe we'll find it there. There's the princess. Let's speak to the princess. The servant came back to the heiress to tell her about her discoveries. Kiona was immediately relieved to learn where the whistle was located. This is wonderful, Naima. Who would have thought we could trace back the fairy's lead? All we have to do now is search the abandoned wing. Not so fast, Princess. The sun has already started to set. It's far too late to do so today. We will go there tomorrow. You are right, and we would not see a thing without light anyway. My only hope is that my toilette is not ready yet. There's only one way to find out. Go back to your quarters, Princess. Meanwhile, I've promised Jean to help her. And so we returned to the princess's quarters. The two young girls parted ways for the evening. Sadly, the workers were even quicker than the day before, and the dress the color of the moon was brought to her without delay, along with the same order as before. Now we're wearing like a really interesting sheer piece, and it's a bunch of different colors actually. That one actually suits the color of time as it flows more, if you ask me, but maybe I'm just being particular. The other one wouldn't have suited the color of the moon, so oh well. Wearing that new toilette, she went to the royal cabinet, as distraught as the other times. The rich dressing was as splendid as the knightly celestial body, making the young princess look even more sublime. In her confusion, she then asked for a dress as bright as the sun, and the king accepted only if she swore she would have enough dresses from now until the wedding. And so the little game continued. When the first rays of the sun hit Kiona's numb eyelids, she already knew that day would be laborious, but she could not imagine what the next one would look like yet. With one mind, Naima and Kiona had set as a goal to explore the derelict wing of the castle, where the Queen's cabinet still was. The magic whistle would most certainly be in the affairs of the deceased. So it's in those 3 highlighted squares on the right. Just this once, the servant was looking quiet, almost impassive. How should we proceed, Princess? There's a lot of ground to cover, and there are only 2 of us. Is something wrong, Naima? You seem nervous. Well, the king made it clear he would not give you any more clothes. Our plan until now was to stall for as much time as possible. I'm afraid we no longer have the room to maneuver. If we don't find that whistle today, we'll have failed. Do not worry about me. We'll find a solution, right? It doesn't sound like you to be pessimistic, Naima. The servant lady nervously rubbed her ear, blushing. You're right, Princess. It's always my duty to keep your morale up. I cannot lose heart now. Much better. Operation Whistle begin! And so we enter the disused wing of the castle. Kiona and Naima enter the first dusty room. A table covered with sumptuous vases and the porcelain of China. It is said that the deceased queen loved to collect items from all around the world, and that she had planned to build a place where her citizens could admire them. Unfortunately, that project never came to fruition. An ebony statue depicting a woman, a symbol of fecundity. Fecundity? I would suppose that's, a virtue of some kind. Probably a souvenir the queen kept of Africa, which she'd wanted to visit. An old yet magnificent gilded clock. Its hands do not move. It's almost as if the flow of time itself has been frozen since the tragedy. Well, in this room it has. A wooden music box. When someone opens it, a soft melody is played. A vast mirror that covers most of the wall. The items the queen was especially fond of are exposed on the vast beach of furniture below. More vases in the porcelain of China. The queen's personal collection must be worth a fortune. A good thing to know should the country have financial trouble. That's everything in this room. Wait, no, we haven't finished exploring the room yet. Oh, it doesn't have the little icon that's like, you're close to a thing that'll help you remember things. Yes, we're done exploring this room. I think that's all for this cabinet, Princess. I do not see any nook that could have escaped our attention. Let us move on to the next room. We'll eventually end up finding what interests us. So we move on to the next room. The two young girls continued exploring with restlessness. The second room was filled with all sorts of paintings. A large harp which is covered in dust. It is said that the deceased queen was an excellent musician, and that she sometimes gave small private performances. A couch accompanied by goose feather cushions. It appears to still be in good condition and looks especially comfortable. A great number of canvases have been stored in this room. It's most probably a decision of the king. Unwilling to see the paintings depicting his beloved wife, he asked them to be removed and stored far from his eyes. A canvas which has been torn down with a blade. It's still possible to recreate the picture from its shreds, however. Do you wish to piece the painting together? Yes, I do. I want to see what the painting looks like. Oh, we're playing a puzzle now. Okay. Does this go there? Okay. So, this is interesting. I was not expecting a puzzle. Let's see. Corners, corners. And then one more corner. Let's see here. Doesn't go there, goes there. I'm sorry if you can't see this. But... oh well. Can't exactly fix it. Probably. Oh, that goes there. Okay. This is interesting. Like how much this game, it starts off as very clearly a visual novel and then kind of works its way into being a point-and-click adventure game. That's neat. Where does this go? Does it go there? It goes there. Oh, it's probably a portrait of the queen. It would not surprise me if it were a portrait of the queen there. That is to say, it's looking like it. Looks like a portrait of the queen. It was a portrait of her late mother. The young woman gasped while staring at the picture. The mother was indeed the spitting image of her daughter. And she was so beautiful. Kiona suddenly felt aggrieved. She would have loved to have been able to spend more time with her, to know more about her. While admiring the canvas representing her baptism, Kiona could not help but feel a twinge of sorrow. All the guests looked so happy. Okay, that's everything in this room. There's nothing else catching my attention, Princess. I hope our research will be more fruitful in the next cabinet. I hope so too, Naima. Time is running dangerously low. Thus the heiress pushed the door of the third room, her retainer still following in her footsteps. The scenery in front of them was not that different from the previous attempts. Even so, Hope had not left them yet. A tiny spark was still shining in their hearts. A piece of furniture filled with few books. There's no doubt that the Queen must have only taken the books she liked or read the most. Strangely enough, there's a copy of The Art of War, written by a certain Sun Tzu. Huh. A huge chimney fills a good part of the room. This one had to be inhabited for its occupant to see fit to install something like that here. A giant tapestry is hanging on the wall. The picture symbolizes the queen guiding her people. And we've got a pointing out thing. The Queen's working desk. Let us see what these drawers contain. Naima pointed to the bottom of the drawer with excitation. Princess, this could be. There's only one way to find out. We have to use it. With a pounding heart, the heiress grasped the item and blew with all her might as she mentally prayed for the stratagem to work. A heavy silence follows the sound of the whistle. All of a sudden, a burst of wind rising up out of nowhere entered the room as purple reflections shaded the walls. A gleaming orb appeared before the two stunned girls. As they were awaiting, shivering, a powerful voice echoed throughout the cabinet.
Who is calling me? Who dares interrupt my sleep?
Actually, it's a female fairy, so.
Who is calling me? Who dares to interrupt my sleep?
Fearful, Naima hid behind the princess, not daring to look away from the apparition. She'd never seen a fairy before, and there was something awe-inspiring about the apparition. Kiona was not confident either, but she felt she had to speak. Godmother, I am Princess Kiona. I've heard that my mother had requested you to give me the fairy's blessing, that I could ask for your assistance. Is this true? Princess Kiona, that name does not ring a bell. That name does ring a bell. You were well informed. The whistle you used to contact me is the proof. I am indeed your godmother. What can I do for you? The two girls sighed with relief. The orb that was spinning in the middle of the room didn't seem hostile. Although Kiana was not superstitious, she had to face the facts. Naima was right all along. Fairies did exist. Regaining courage, the heiress raised her voice. The thing is, monsieur, my father has gone mad. He claims that he'll marry me at once, and I do not know what to do. What a curious story. And yet you hope to borrow my powers so you can get yourself out of this bad situation. The fairy and Kiona's voice sound exactly the same. I'm just going to give the fairy a male voice because I'm terrible at female voices. That's right. I suppose you're ignorant of how a relationship between a fairy and... This is the king's voice. I suppose you're ignorant of how a relationship between a fairy and a human being works, but let me warn you, it will not be easy. To begin with, I can appear in your world to assist you, but it will require several hours. Kiona's smile abruptly disappeared. The servant and the princess stared at each other with dismay. Several hours? But, godmother, this is quite the urgent matter. I must meet my father in a few hours to confirm my wedding vows, and he swore he would execute me if I did not conform to his order. I'm sorry, but I cannot do differently. You see, fairies come from a parallel world where time flows in a different way. Even if I hurry, I would not be able to materialize correctly in your world with a snap of my fingers. And you would not want me to appear with only a fragment of my powers, would you? If you really need me, you'll have to wait. But once you get here, you'll be able to help me, right? I will not lie, you have to observe some rules to get the right to borrow my powers. But if you abide by them, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to help you. The apparition's answer was not entirely satisfying, but Kiona hardly had a choice. Overcoming her fear, Naima slowly came away from her mistress's shoulders. Fairies are not orbs of color for light like I'm seeing you right now, right? The voice let a chuckle slip. The echo magnified the power of that sound, making the young girl shudder. No, this is not my true form, only a very convenient means of communication. I would let you know, dear ladies, that I do not like to come out for nothing. Usually I would not have answered at all. However, a promise is a promise, and fairies are always true to their word. I gave you my blessing. I look forward to seeing you in the flesh, then. I've always dreamed of meeting a fairy with my own eyes. The walls shook again with the benevolent laugh of the preternatural being. Oh, but you'll see me soon enough. I will be in your room by tomorrow afternoon, Kiona. Until then, be patient. With those few words, a new burst of wind made the cabinet tremble, and the purple orb disappeared as it had come. Shaken, the maidens felt like they had just woken up from a dream. Silently, they headed for the princess's suite. Still, Naima exclaimed as she walked. We did it! Even if it will take some time, we called the fairy forth. Soon you'll be out of the woods. Into the woods, when it's clear. Man, it's been a long time since I did anything with Into the Woods. Like, I was the lights guy. And then the movie came out, like, a couple years later. That was the thing. I hope so. As they were about to enter the room, they noticed the tailors running towards them. After the previous whim, they had gotten ready to face a third one and done everything they could to work even faster. Not only did they call on all the apprentices of the domain for help, but they also took the liberty of fetching many precious materials. And thus they were already bringing the dress the color of the sun, worn out by those long nights of work, yet satisfied to finally see the end of this punishment. Kiona felt devastated. The princess bemoaned. Oh, Naima, what should I do? The dress is already here, and I cannot buy us more time before the fairy comes. This is all over. Not yet, princess. I have an idea. It pains me to share it, but I was not able to find another throughout the day. Kiona tugged the retainer's sleeve eagerly, thrilled to see an alternative appearing. Say it anyway. Tell your father that his gifts make you happy and you'll accept to marry him on the condition that he brings you a token of love which will ensure his sincerity. Ask for the hide of his marvelous donkey, which guarantees the prosperity of the kingdom. The donkey? But I cannot, that would be horrible. The poor animal did nothing wrong, and the country would be headed for ruin if the donkey's not here to maintain our finances anymore. I know, princess, I'm not very proud of my advice, but I don't see any other way. There's still an ounce of discernment left in your father. He will refuse and you'll be saved. However, if he persists in his madness and decides to seal the fate of your people, then you should not have any scruple to leave this wretched place. Are you not supposed to serve my father? If I find a way to escape another kingdom, you'll be stuck here. That's a possibility I'm ready to face. My loyalty lies with the princess, even if it serves me badly. The same applies to the common good. I put you above anything else. Oh, Naima, but I would feel so guilty. It would assuredly be the road to ruin. You must do it, princess. This is our last chance to buy some time. Kiona sighed. She could not step backwards. Not so close to her goal. As with the previous days, the heiress consequently wore the clothes and went to her father. This is really interesting. I like this piece. Kind of feels like the Gerudo garments a little bit from, like, Zelda. Except less scantily clad, I guess. Less, like, stomach-bearing, I suppose would be the best term. Anyway. When she entered, she dazzled the king. Never before there'd been something as exquisite, and never before the princess looked as radiant. Satisfied to see his daughter beaming with beauty, He was delighted with the mere thought of celebrating their wedded bliss and could not hide his pleasure.
Are you content with your dresses?
Yes, Father, they're all so magnificent.
Very good. Was that your last request, or do you have another wish before our wedding?
Well, all those dresses are beautiful, and I'm set to espouse you. However, I would like to make sure of your feelings towards me.
The monarch furrowed his brow. I am ready for anything if it means convincing you, daughter.
As a token of your love, I would take the skin of that old donkey, which I believe is getting so bored in your stables.
The king, having lost his ability to reason long ago, had no remorse in sacrificing the treasure of the country, and granted the dumbstruck girl's request. He added that the animal would be killed right away, and that she only needed to wait until the next afternoon, so that the skin could be prepared and partly dried.
No!
Thus the princess spent her longest and her most eventful night yet. She never stopped waking up, drenched in sweat, imagining the dead animal at her feet, entrails on its skin. In the darkness of her room, she feverishly prayed with all her heart that the fairy would manage to save her. May God grant her that wish. She did not know yet that the day to come would be the longest and the most nightmarish one of all her existence. Naima confined the princess, weakened by the delirium of that endless night, to bed all morning so she could rest and regain some strength. When the hour of meeting with the fairy struck, Kiona was already feeling a bit better, but she was still at her window, dumbfounded. What are you thinking about, love? I don't know who that was, so I just gave them a male voice.
I do not know. All my thoughts are getting tangled up. I'm not even sure I can distinguish between what is right or wrong anymore. The heiress turned around, assuming she had glimpsed Naima, but there was nobody in the room. The young girl stood up immediately with a scared look on her face. Who is talking?
Do not be afraid, my love. I was just confirming that the coast was clear.
It's the fairy! With those mysterious words, a familiar gust of wind entered the princess's cabinet and took the shape of a colorful whirlwind, revealing a human silhouette. Godmother, is that you?
Yes, my child. Are you surprised? Were you expecting someone else?
Before Kiona's wide-open eyes, a strange creature had just appeared. The stranger did look human, but yet she also seemed devoured by leaves and lianas, like a nymph. Her piercing gaze and her shredded, almost grim garb made her look more like a witch than a fairy. The princess did not dare tell the one that she invoked. The princess did not dare tell the one she had invoked that she was scared of her, but she was not able to hide her turmoil either. Well, I did not picture that way, Godmother. The stranger laughed frankly and stared at the young girl with ardent eyes. Oh, but you're not the only one. You humans have such a curious outlook on our kind. Contrary to what you may think, we don't have wings nor magic wands. It's a bit more complicated than that. Oh, I see. Do not be afraid. I'm not going to eat you. Fairies are beings who are closer to nature, and whose powers come from the world tree. If I may, if the way I look looks slightly monstrous to you, it's simply because I'm a former human, just like you, who forsook her existence and was corrupted. Are you a demonic creature then? The laugh intensified. It's hard for believers who perceive the world in terms of right and wrong, heaven and hell. We fairies are entities who could not be more neutral. We are neither good nor evil. We can just as well bless or curse mortals, depending on the way they use our powers. My nature will depend on you. If you employ me to do harm, then yes, I'll be a demon. However, if you employ me to do good, then you will not have to worry about sin. Kiona let out a small, relieved sigh. For a moment she believed that she'd summoned a demon or some similar creature.
If her faith determined the fairy's actions, then surely she would not have to concern herself with anything. As a good Christian, it would never occur to her to do any misdeed after all. I read in your eyes that you doubt me. As I said, my child, I'm not a creature from hell who may lead you astray, only a human being who sealed away her memories and her ability to love so she could become a guardian of this world. My work would be meaningless if I were voluntarily sowing destruction all around me. Are you reassured now? Yes, Godmother. Very good. Then let us move on to more serious matters. Before you even make a request, I will explain the rules. As your godmother, I'm willing to grant you some minor and harmless services. However, if you wish for a more thorough assistance on my part, you'll have to make a pact. A pact? It's quite simple. A human who has made a pact with the fairy can call her at any moment instantly, and she'll be able to grant one single wish, regardless of its nature. The bond between them is so strong that the request can be completely absurd, and it'll still be fulfilled. However, this magic is not free. One does not bestow unlimited powers upon a mortal just like that. There must be an equivalent cost in return. In exchange for having the greatest wish fulfilled, the human must forsake part of their shared memories, which means they will vanish from the memory of the person they love the most. Kiona could not help but shiver. Naima was the dearest person to her heart, and she had in no way the intention of losing her. The mention of the rules tarnished her face. It is a heavy price to pay. Indeed, I will not hide that it represents a substantial sacrifice, but the sacrifice is as great as the miracle I will be able to create at your request. The power to create miracles. The princess immediately became pensive. A heavy responsibility was resting on her shoulders. The fairy realized this and tried to reassure her. That being said, know that completing a pact with me does not commit you in any way to make a wish. This was incidentally the case of your mother. My mother? Absolutely. We were bound by a pact, but she never managed to make up her mind because of her love for you and your father. Thus, she decided to break the pact and make you inherit my blessing instead. The princess was speechless. So then, her late mother had chosen to protect her at any cost. Legends were true. The queen really was acquainted with fairies. Are you telling me that if I make a pact with you today, I can reconsider and nothing will happen to me? Exactly. You're a quick thinker. To be perfectly honest, I'd rather avoid this scenario. As long as the pact is valid, I'm forced to stay in your world so that I could answer your call at any time. If you do not intend to use my powers, it would be a waste of time for both of us, and I'd rather get back to sleep in the World Tree. I will nevertheless heed your choice. So, we are not obliged to make this pact for you to help me? Yes and no. I may be able to use some magic for small tasks, but as soon as you try to change fate to satisfy your aim, there will inevitably be consequences. It would be wiser to sign a pact in advance than to have your wish at hand, should you be in trouble. Are you implying that magic could be dangerous? The fairy rolled her eyes, irritated. Like I've told you many times, I'm neutral. My magic is not inherently dangerous. However, it could turn against you without warning, depending on how you use it. For instance, let us say you ask me to kill your father. Neighboring lords could get wind of it and decide it would be the perfect time to launch an attack on your lands. I will not have deliberately initiated a war, but a war will stem from the murder perpetrated at your request. That would be a criminal action, incidentally, but I never object to the requests I get, should they be immoral or foul. I'm not here to judge. Anyway, if an army ever happens to storm into the castle and you're taken hostage and threaten to be put to death, you will be glad to be able to ask me to release you or undo your wrongdoing. I now understand better. Godmother, I'm not sure that I know what to do. The fairy seemed touched for an instant. She seemed to be gazing through her as if she was seeing someone else. I guess there's nothing we can do about it. If I had to give you one piece of advice, it would be this one. Close your eyes and tell me honestly, in what you believe the most. What is the strength that could get you out of a difficult situation? I believe in magic, or I believe in myself. Let's say I believe in myself. I think my willpower can make a difference. If I believe in my abilities, I can move mountains. Magic is only a trigger to push me into outdoing myself. The creature seemed genuinely surprised by that answer. Indeed, magic only serves as a supplement to your inner strength. Your strength is even the source of magic. The stronger your mind is, the more powerful your magic will be. I did not think you would have already understood that. You are very mature for a mortal so young. You have potential. I like this. Thank you, Godmother. May I take some time to further ponder the matter? Of course. I will come back tonight, and you'll give me your answer then. In the meantime, be strong. I sense black clouds above you, my child. And with that rather mysterious sentence, the fairy vanished. Entrenched in her distress, the princess decided to walk around in order to help her reflect. Wandering through the corridors like a lost soul, she noticed that all the retainers were busy preparing for the imminent wedding. Passing near the kitchen, she overheard Scrap's conversation between some of them. I heard that the king has no money left. Yes, the bar for the stocky has been slaughtered. I know someone working at the stables who saw everything. That's appalling. How is the kingdom going to hold out? It was the only thing we had left. No idea. As far as I'm concerned, I'm thinking about departing with my family. As a craftsman, I should be able to find work in another castle. How lucky. I'd like to do the same, but it's impossible. I'd stay here till the very end. I'm only a chambermaid. Kiona sneaked out before getting noticed. Now was not the time to be congratulated by fake smiles. She stopped for a while in the garden to meditate and pray. God, if you can hear me, give me your strength. Now the music has changed. There we go. It took the game a second to realize what it was doing, I guess. Later that night, as the heiress was rereading under the candle's light the courtly novel she'd borrowed in the library, a scratch at the door interrupted her daydreaming. Seized with panic, she blew the dim flames out and laid down in her bed, pretending to be asleep. She definitely didn't want to be disturbed. The scratching noise intensified. A few moments of silence later, the creaking of the panel being slid open revealed a silhouette. The princess focused as much as she could on keeping her eyes shut, as clear steps were coming closer to her. She waited, her heart pounding. Someone was standing right next to her. She could sense their breath. It was her father, she was sure of it. After what seemed like an eternity, she could once again hear the steps, this time farther away in the corridor, after the door was closed. The princess carefully opened her eyes. The donkey skin was just lying in front of her. Kiona could not hold back an exclamation of disgust. How dreadful! Poor thing. And yet it is unlikely to bite you. And yet it is unlikely to bite you. The candles relit as if by magic while the fairy was making an entrance in her usual whirlwind. I see that the king has provided the hide of the donkey you asked for.
So you know.
My child, I know almost everything. Such is the benefit of being a fairy.
Wait a minute. We're getting closer to the important thing.
Do you have an answer to give me?
Yes, ma'am. All things considered, I think I cannot make a wish under those conditions. I'm not ready to lose the person I love the most, and either way I would not know what to wish for.
I see. This is unfortunate, for it would have allowed me to get back to sleep sooner, but this is probably the wisest choice given your situation. Nonetheless, even if I can help you outside a wish, my powers will be incredibly reduced. Would you not want to make a pact as a precaution? Kiona put her hand under her chin in a pensive stance, and then nodded.
I accept. I hardly have a choice if I want to avoid that loathsome wedding anyway.
Let this be a deal, then. In that case, come closer. Grab my hands. You must not let go of them during the whole summoning, understand?
Summoning? Yes, godmother.
Perfect. Let us proceed.
Wait.
What is it, love?
I don't even know your name.
The fairy seemed suddenly moved and at the same time almost sorrowful, as if that question was bringing back painful memories. The fairy kind of looks a little bit like Kiana. I am known as Media. Are you satisfied now?
Let's show interest. I heard it was disrespectful to pronounce the name of a fairy. Is that true? Or may I call you by that name?
Oh, the, important, you are near an important thing, crystal, is turned red. That's important. The creature looked away towards the other side of the room as if she was ill at ease. It's quite complicated.
Unless your name works like demon names do? If I happen to know it, would I gain absolute power over you, and then you'd rather avoid that, or...?
You truly are a clever one. Media is my fairy name, not my real one. The one I was given when I was still immortal. However, I forgot that name along with all my old memories when I was corrupted, so I cannot reveal it even if I wanted to, and it wouldn't be a good idea anyway. I believe in you, but trusting that sort of thing to a mortal would have disastrous consequences.
I see. May I know why you're called Media, then?
That is the name chosen by the World Tree when it read my heart. It's very likely based on what I have been it's very likely based on what I had been as a human being. I believe Media means to understand, to meditate.
It's a very pretty name, and it shows that you're a person possessing high knowledge.
The fairy could not suppress her laugh. Certainly. Are you satisfied at this time?
Yes, godmother.
Let us begin. Media immediately grabs the princess frail hand. Media immediately grabbed the princess's frail... One more time, let's try that again. Media immediately grabbed the princess's frail hands and began to recite an incantation in an unknown language. A magic circle soon appeared on her back. Oh, there's the magic circle. It's doing a rotate and a blink. As she was singing louder and louder, quicker and quicker, the various flames located in the room seemed to gain strength. Eyes closed, the fairy seemed to be in a trance. Kiona was scared by her exalted face. A strange feeling spread through her body as the distant beating of drums came to her ears. Her sight became somewhat blurred. The heat was preventing her from thinking straight, and she already couldn't comprehend what was going on anymore. The fairy was unmistakably drawing near the climax of her incantation, and the princess had to struggle to keep standing. All of a sudden, a fierce burn pierced her chest as if an invisible hand were branding her with a red-hot iron. Then, nothing anymore. The fairy's chant stopped gradually, and Kiona eventually got her 5 senses back.
happened?
Something had changed in Medea. Her eyes were glowing with a troubling light, contrasting with the nonchalance she had displayed so far. The link has been established. The fairy kneeled before the young girl, dazed. I'm at your service. You can now summon me whenever you like. I would like to specify, nevertheless, that I remain a mere outsider. You're the one to make the decisions and shape your own fate. Now the thing is blinking yellow. What do you mean? Well, in short, I will settle for executing your orders. It is up to you to ask me what you need. Kiona remained speechless. The fairy got back on her feet and put on her most beautiful smile. When the princess was able to see her pupils again, the creature had seemingly returned to normal. Call me when you've made up your mind, my love. I'm going to go for a stroll. And with those caustic words, she evaporated again. At the same time, Naima burst in the room. Oh, Princess, I'm so sorry. I was held back a good part of the day because of the ceremony in preparation. I couldn't slip out sooner. Are you alright? I could be better. Do I look okay to you? Ask her if we look okay. Question of the day. The lady in waiting stared at the princess with an afflicted look. I guess not. You'd have seen the fairy and your father since this morning. I guess you must be shaken. Exactly. I feel extremely displeased you weren't even here. Anyone would think that you do not care at all. That's not true, Your Majesty. I'd never... Do not say another word. It's no use. Emma opened her mouth as if to protest, but the words couldn't get out of her throat. She simply looked down. The princess coughed as a way to redirect the conversation. I was able to talk with my godmother. She agrees to help me, but only if I explain what I need. She told me that she would not allow herself to decide what I should do in my place. Kiona decided not to mention the pact in order not to make her friend worry. The incantation had been frightening enough that the heiress did not want to bring up the subject ever again. Sorry, I need to stretch. That's still a little bit warm. Jeez. Furthermore, she was feeling shameful and was refusing to confess to her religious friend that she had been imprinted by the fairy's mark. It couldn't possibly be a good thing in the eyes of God. Oh, that is good news. Have you decided how you're going to escape from your father? Not yet, but I'm working on it. I'm going to sit in a corner of the room. I'm going to sit in the corner of the room to avoid disturbing you then. Give me a sign if you need me. The princess took the time to lie on the bed and watch her breathing, so that she would be perfectly calm and lucid. The decision she was about to make was crucial. She had no room for mistakes. However, her mind was empty, and she did not know how to escape from her father without him finding her. Kiona glanced around the room in hope of finding an idea. Her eyes laid upon... I don't know if this is a choice, or... We'll pick the desk. Her eyes laid upon the manuscript of Cletus that she had brought from the library and put on her desk. In that story, the characters go through similar hardships. Denise devises a ploy so that Cletus' uncle believes that she's dead, allowing her to escape with her lover without raising any suspicion. To achieve that goal, she asks her wet nurse, Thesala, who can brew potions, to make her a filter that would make her appear dead. That could be a solution. Ask my godmother for a similar beverage and solicit Naima to be my accomplice. Or her eyes laid upon the donkey skin that her father had placed on her bed. It really looked hideous. A strange thought then crossed the girl's mind. Disguised with such unsightly rags, no one would ever suspect she's a noble lady. If her godmother managed to get her out of the castle, she could pretend to be a peasant and avoid being recognized. That would be a solution, to disguise myself with the hide of the animal and flee with the complicity of the fairy. With determination in her eyes, the princess stood back up. She waved to Naima. I think I've found an idea. Let us call my godmother without further delay. Who's ringing my phone? Nothing important. I am already here. The two young girls jolted upon hearing the fairy, who had once again appeared without warning. I think I have like water in my ear or something. Kinda hurts a little bit. It's probably nothing. So this is your true form, whispered Naima. How impressive. Medea's traits seemed to lighten up. Thank you, I'll take that as a compliment. Anyway, let us get back to the reason of my presence. Speak, love, how can I help you? I need you to. For the demo, you can only pretend to be dead. Other choices will be added later on. Aw, man. Alright, I guess. Well, that's actually the first thing we've run into in the demo that's only partially finished, though. So getting this far into the game, that's really impressive. I guess we get to pretend to be dead. Godmother, just like Phineas, I would like to have a magic filter, which can rid me of all my senses and make me fall in a deep sleep akin to death, so that Naima can then get me out of my coffin when nobody's paying attention. Thus I'd be free to leave without raising any suspicion and seek refuge from a neighboring lord. How astute you are, Princess. I would be so glad to participate and lend my support. I can indeed plunge you into a magical coma for several days with a mixture of my own. What's a coma, man? This is difficult to explain. Coma is not a word that exists yet. You can see into the future? Since time flows differently in the world of fairies, we exist at the same time as your past and your future. It allows us to learn quite a few things. I'll explain this to you in another time. The fairy turned to Kiona with a serious look. With one deft gesture of her hand, she traced invisible words in the air, and a small vial appeared in her hand as if by magic. Here is a potion. Once you have taken it, you'll become stiff and pale as a corpse, and you'll fall into a deep sleep that will last exactly 3 days. At the end of this period, you'll regain consciousness quite normally. Thanks to my magic, there will be no consequences on your metabolism. You'll be fresh as lively. No consequences on your metabolism. You will be as fresh and lively as if nothing had happened at all. So there's no risk of you dying of thirst or soiling yourself as a side effect. Excellent. I would still advise you to get organized with your servant before drinking the potion, so that she knows what you expect her to do while you're asleep. Thank you for your wise advice, Godmother. Thrilled by the prospect of planning her escape, the princess gratefully kissed the fairy. I have to leave now, my child. You know what to do if you ever need me. Thus the strange creature disappeared once more. Naima turned to the heiress with a dash of anxiety on the edge of her lips. How are we going to proceed now, Princess? Two young girls agreed with one mind that Kiona would drink the filter after laying in her bed so that the illness would seem more believable. Naima would then have to run through the castle and make as much noise as she could. She was all too pleased to do so, and and set off to run through all the castle's corridors to scream her distress. Soon enough, the rumor of the princess's death spread everywhere. The king immediately called the best physicians, while the retainers were gathering in the hall to whisper to each other. It was said everywhere that the heiress had been taken by the same mysterious illness which had claimed her mother. She'd spent the day before her death bedridden, and that the country was cursed. The ploy Kiona had devised seemed to be working perfectly. Barely a few hours after talking with her servant for the last time, the physicians announced that she had passed away. The whole kingdom was mourning her. The transfer of the princess's body soon came into question, as it had been kept in her well-guarded room until then. The king in person went to contemplate the pale face of the one who had been his daughter, while several servants were taking her away to the family crypt. Upon hearing this, Naima panicked. It was planned to bury the princess as soon as possible, because the king had been forbidden all ceremonies in her honor, except the last rites. She therefore did not have much time left as she hoped to extract Kiona, who was now resting in an open coffin in the castle's crypt. The servant immediately wanted to go to the site as visits were allowed, under the supervision of two husky men who were guarding the room night and day. When she saw the peaceful face of her mistress lying on a bed of flowers, the young Moor was unable to suppress her emotions. She had to do everything in her power to get her out of there. Naima attempted to be cunning and asked the guards as innocently as possible if they could bring her some incense while she was meditating over the remains of her princess. Unfortunately, the guards were not that stupid and retorted she had all the time to do it herself. Aggrieved, she came back a few minutes later and tried to distract them in vain, as the two men were obstinately immobile. Naima's fear grew more and more as the hours passed, and she came to beg them to leave her alone with the body for a moment, yet they remained unwavering. The lady's companion, even more shaken than before, started to cry, insisting the princess was not dead, only asleep, and that they had to save her, or she really would die. The guards thought the pain had driven Naima insane. They called for reinforcements in order to bring her under control. And out of despair, Naima struggled. She scratched her attackers, screamed murder, that they would all have the heiress's death on her conscience. But ultimately, she could not do anything against the men who were taking her away. Isolated under the pretext that she was hysterical, the young girl was imprisoned in one of the dungeon's cells, guarded by soldiers who looked as sinister as the others. She was strictly forbidden to approach the body or even get out until a week after the prince's burial. Thus, Naima was unable to keep her promise. The servant refused to eat and spent those few days in the darkness of her cell, talking to herself.
Princess, I'm sorry. I won't be able to let you escape, and the both of us will not go on an adventure. I would have loved that really, and I was looking forward to it so much, but Naima has failed. She failed to act in time. I'm sorry. I'm so very sorry.
A few hours later, she was found hanged by her belt in her makeshift cell, while the heiress was officially buried in the graveyard overhanging the forest that adjoined the castle. At the end of the 3 days, Kiona regained consciousness as planned. However, as she was softly opening her eyes, she quickly realized that something was wrong.
What is...
The young girl was shrouded in darkness, and did not distinguish anything that could give her clues about her location. Her heart raced in her chest. This was not reassuring at all. She wanted to get back on her feet, and then immediately stood how grave the situation was. She simply couldn't. Beads of sweat dripped from her corner of her temple as she touched the edges of her macabre prison. Realization then hit her right in the chest. She was locked in a box. Not just any kind of box. One that was big enough to fit a whole human being. Her pupils widened because of the stupefaction.
Impossible. Could this be a coffin? They buried me.
The princess tried to keep a semblance of calm, but but she had to fight her inner demons to achieve that. It must be a mistake. Surely Naima's on her way to collect me. She's just a little late. In order to reassure herself, Kiona paid close attention to the noises around her, hoping to detect her friend above her. But she could only hear the wind in the desperately quiet forest. The young girl was buried too deeply for anyone to notice her, or even glimpse a ray of light, and she did not know night had come for some time now. It hardly kept her from trying, for she was thinking it hardly kept her from trying, for she was still thinking she could escape. Is anybody there? Naima, is that you? Please, get me out of here. Unable to do anything at all, the princess waited in silence. She couldn't keep track of the time, yet the suffocation was twisting her perception. It seemed like she'd been motionless for hours. Sorry, I'm trying to get the cup off. Get the lid off my cup without, splashing hot tea everywhere. Long hours, during which she was hoping her servant would come soon. However, she had to face reality. Naima would not come. Something had happened during her sleep which prevented the servant from fulfilling her mission. Had she been discovered? Or was this revenge on her part? The most absurd theories were passing through Kiona's feverish mind. Soon, the narrowness and obscurity of her prison became unbearable. Her breath got irregular, while her whole body started to violently twitch. Despite all her efforts, the heiress could not suppress the panic which was taking hold of her. It's so dark, I have trouble breathing. For pity's sake, let me out of here. In utter despair, Kiona then remembered the pact which she had completed with the fairy. Surely she could use her powers to save herself. As the princess was trying to summon her godmother in her head, a horrible thought made her doubt. The fairy would only fulfill her wish if she accepted being separated from her most beloved one, which meant that even if she were able to get out alive of this coffin, Naima would not remember her. She would find herself alone and forsaken. Indecisiveness forced her to reconsider. Kiona consequently decided to wait a few more minutes. Unfortunately, the situation was already utterly out of her control. In no time, she felt like she was running out of air, which increased her paranoia and her panic attack. In tears, the young girl cried out inhuman pleas, and her eyes started to sting. I can't take it anymore, I cannot. This has to stop, this nightmare has to stop. A late realization suddenly struck her. She was going to die. Alone. In this gruesome coffin. I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Mercy, God, have mercy on me, I don't want to die yet. Choked by the overwhelming heat, pupils widened by pure terror, the princess gathered the last of her strength to raise a shaking and convulsing hand. I don't want to die. And she brought herself to call her godmother. The fairy's voice echoed in her head straight away. Yes, my child. Godmother, I beg of you, help me, I'm stuck. I don't want to die, please help me. Calm down. Do not forget that we are bound. If this is your wish, I will fulfill it. I only need you to clearly express what you're expecting me to do. I can save you. You have to tell me how I should proceed. How? There are many ways to get you out of there. Pronounce your order unambiguously and I will obey. The young girl stayed quiet for a few seconds. Fear was making her delirious, and she could not control her emotions anymore. Thus it was impossible for her to properly focus. Yet there was an absolute certainty engraved in her heart. She could not allow herself to lose the relationship she had with Naima. This was her only friend, the only person who understood her. There had to be a way to erase her mistake without having to pay the fairy's tribute. Time was running out, and Kiona could not wait. A shameful thought suddenly came to me. If only I could go back in time and choose another path. If only I could... Her behavior suddenly changed. Media, allow me to go back in time so that I can have a second chance. Your wish is my command, princess. With these words, the same magic circle, which had materialized during their pact, appeared in the young girl's coffin, and illuminated her with a blinding light, while the fairy was reciting a similar spell. The echoes of her magic words filled Kiona's heart with fear. What was she doing? Could this charm truly save her? She did not have time to put more thought into it, for everything that was around her disappeared. Her body rose in the air, flapped by a powerful wind, as if she was moving at great speed. The last minutes of her life flashed by backwards, like a furious bull no one could stop. A final thought wandered through her mind. Have I made a mistake somewhere? Without warning, she lost consciousness and the world ceased to exist. Thus began a very long nightmare. A long, very long nightmare. So that was the bad end, I assume? Wow. For a game demo, that was incredible. Oh my gosh. Like, wow. I cannot wait to see the rest of this game. I am definitely going to have to keep this in mind. Shout out to the people who did the music for this. This Butterfly Tea guy and Roganis. Incredible work. Apparently this wasn't originally in English because it was translated into English by a guy named Paul Krubelier. Nice work to the people who did the proofreading. Mir Olfrain Pyrite Starms. Wow. This was all really well done. And it was all done with stock sounds. Okay. Special thanks to the people who did this on Patreon, I guess. Joseph C. Cool, Mir and Orphane. So I'll have to keep this in mind for sure. Like, that was really, really well done. I would love to play this game in full when it comes out. That was great. That was a great time. I'd love to finish up this game when it's out. I'd love to, be able to go back and say, okay, I want the other route, the sneak out of the castle route, which clearly was the good one. I don't know if that Kickstarter is still open, but keep that in mind, I guess. This was a Kickstarter game. And then we're just back to the main menu. Okay. Well, that was a wonderful experience. Let me see what else I have here in my visual novels folder. Next we have Equilibrium. So we'll check that out right about now, I think. Just give me a moment while my computer decides to play nice. How much time have we been streaming for? Wow, it's almost 2 hours. Alright, so we'll exit Chronotopia. That was great. That was really, really well written, and all the sprite art was really well done. I really wish I didn't have encoding problems with my stream that whole time, because it was really just great work. Hang on, I'm going to put up the BRB while I wait for things to play nice. Maybe that'll fix the encoding issues? Oh, dang, the BRB is way out of place. You go back to where you belong, mister. But, you guys seem to be really enjoying these. I'm getting actually, like, more than the other stream more so than the other stream VODs, I'd say. I'm getting more views overall, and I'm getting more watch time. Like, you guys are watching this all the way through. It's kind of interesting, in comparison to my normal videos where you guys sometimes don't even stick around for the whole video. and then we get this 3-hour long journey together, and you guys just stick around. It's interesting to me. Also, Chronotopia may have actually had an issue. Chronotopia seems to be running a little slower than most of the other Ren'Py VNs that I've been working with. So it's a little odd. It's like they're almost putting too much strain on the engine or something. I don't know how much Ren'Py can do. Just speaking, because I don't. It's not exact. Python's not my first language for sure, you know. So we'll open up Equilibrium. Also, while we're waiting, I'm gonna be annoyed. I'm gonna make annoyed sounds because I thought I had applied for a job and they gave me a job. Turns out that job I thought I had, it was just them saying, "Oh yeah, we'll pass on your stuff to this other company, and then they'll come interview." It's like, thanks. Could have told me that while we were starting this whole proceeding. I stopped looking for a job for a while there because I thought I had a job. Real nice of you. Just wonderful. Genuine annoyance. There we go. I may have opened that twice on accident. Hang on a moment. Let me close one of those. And then we can turn off the BRB. And hopefully it's still being... Is it capturing equilibrium? It is capturing equilibrium. Alright, let's start equilibrium. I don't remember anything about this one either. 200 years ago, the last war divided the people of Melchior on their old world. Their dying planet was decimated by a final devastating standoff between the Erythral and the Obsidian peoples. In their desperation to live on, splinter groups of these two sects decided to aid each other in their last days and created a spaceship, an Ark, to save the remainder of their people. They named it Zion, in hope for a future planet where they could begin anew. And so, this small group of creators and their families launched into space and into the unknown, as they watched the place they call home fall apart before their eyes. As time went on, it was agreed that, for the sake of peace, the two sects should remain segregated, as not to cause unnecessary conflict, lest they repeat the tragedy of the old world. Councils were created to govern over their respective communities and to resolve any issues peacefully between one another, as survival was prioritized over any other issues. Despite initial disagreements between the two, they inevitably always acquiesced to this system. It was done for the greater good of the people, after all. Until a new home could be found, this would be the way it would remain. How long have we been streaming? Does that say 1 hour and 53 minutes or 2? That says 1 hour, okay. Hang on, I'm going to move some windows around here. Just give me a sec. Should have done that when the BRB was up, but oh well. Perhaps this will help our encoding overloaded issue. If you listen closely, you can hear the sound of it not fixing that. Happy birthday, Elder! Happy birthday, Mana! It's an important... Oh, wait, no. It's an important age for the both of us, isn't it? 120 isn't all that impressive. Sorry, I need to be able to see all the things I need to see. So I need to move the windows around some more. There we go. That should be just fine. It's 112 years older than I am. It's definitely an impressive milestone. Did she say she's 120? This girl is 8 years old? I don't think so. That girl is not 8 years old at all. 0% 8 years old. At my age, it's just another number higher than the last. You, however, have reached an age where you are ready to contribute to the society that raised you. You raised me and taught me. As a representative of that society, it's all inclusive. Of course it is. Drink your tea. Yes, ma'am. I take 2 sips of the soothing honey tea before me. And swallow down the anxious feelings inside my chest. I made you something to commemorate the day. That's not necessary. Well, it's already done, so just accept it, okay? I set a palm-sized metal tablet in her hand. It's a simple thing with a small section of engraved writing on it. Miranda, it's just a little note of appreciation I wrote for you. I'm not very practical, but I wanted to try and make something original. If you don't like it... You know I don't throw anything away you make for me. She likes it. I suppose you're antsy for your gift. Yes. No modesty. What sort of young woman have I raised? One you've graciously raised after an absolutely wonderful amount of time since she was a toddler. Watch it now. She brings out a weathered box I remembered seeing once before. I'd been very young at the time, and she'd forbidden me from ever touching it. I had, in my insatiable curiosity, tried to pry it open later that day, to no avail. I feel like maybe they meant you're 102 years older than me, because she's 18. Maybe that's what they meant to write. Might have been a typo. Because there's no way she's 8 years old, I can tell you that. That's your super secret important box, isn't it? Gosh dang, those little menu options on the bottom. The one you were not meant to touch under any circumstances. Can you really blame me? He was calling my name, asking so very sweetly, Mama, please open me. You really enjoy what's inside. Does your overflowing well of curiosity know no bounds? Nope. Incorrigible. She carefully types in the passcode on top of the box, and it opens with a soft hiss. Hold out your hand. I do so and stare in wonder at what she gently places in my hand. It's beautiful. What is it? One of the last remaining mementos from the old world. A preserved leaf from my ancestors' garden. It's become a tradition to pass it down so that we may remember our past and learn from our mistakes. Hopefully to not repeat them in the future. I'm not sure how to feel about taking this. It's something your family has treasured for so long. Do you really want me to have this? There is no one else I trust more than you to carry on this tradition. I am certain that you can carry the responsibility of this. Isn't that the way I raised you? I ponder over this for a moment. It's the most precious thing she's given to me, other than her time and her commitment to my well-being. I don't feel worthy of it, but I'll honor her wishes. Thank you so much. I'll do my best to take care of it. Good. Now off with you. Your first day of work begins soon. It's always better to arrive too early than too late. Yes, ma'am. I fidget nervously with the hem on my shirt, waiting in the corner of a laboratory that will soon become a familiar workplace I attend for the rest of my life. The head researcher had informed me that I'd be sharing this particular lab with the lab side. Actually, I'm going to turn it down. We're doing a game. I'm turning message. Hopefully it's not at least one hole important. It's Kai. I'll get back to her later. She's talking. We're discussing some YouTube things, but I'll get back to her when I'm done streaming. I was expected to reserve all prejudices about him and keep to my own work. Kai, please wait. I have Strem to finish. Maybe after the stream, we'll work on what she's on about. Being explicitly told that he prefers solitude in his studies, but since there's very little room on the ship as it is, compromises have to be made for the benefit of society. The small boy scurries into the room with his head down, and gaze transfixed on the datapad before him. I quickly step out of his way, and he jolts at my movement. Kai is calling me. I'm going to tell her I'm Stream. Stream. His voice is soft and monotonous, but his stiff posture betrays his surprise. I decide cautiousness would be best around him. Hello, are you Ever? Yeah. My name is Mana. I'll be working here with you from now on. Is that alright with you? Yeah. So where would it be alright for me to work? He shrugs, looking everywhere except at me. I'm probably making him uncomfortable. I know I had trouble getting along with other children when I was younger, and I'm more than positive that hasn't changed to this day. Do you sit here? I gesture to the two stools beside me. No. He shakes his head and points to a corner in the opposite end of the room. There are data pads stacked up on the floor there. On the floor? I suppose the stools aren't too comfortable for you, are they? Not really. Just a personal preference, huh? At last he looks at me. Or stares for a strange... Or maybe... Oh. I guess that's supposed to be his name. Ever stares for a long, strange moment. That's weird. That was a weird typo. At last he looks at me. Ever stares for a long, strange moment, and then turns and heads to his little corner. I'm going to work now. He says it so quietly, I almost miss it. People have always said I'm rather odd. I feel that Ever might be in the same position, given his demeanor. Although I've been a little bit more of a handful over the years, whereas Ever doesn't seem to brew trouble. I suppose people don't mind him. They just leave him to his own devices. I take a seat, tapping the black screen before me, and wait for the relevant data to load up on the hologram above it. Beyond the thick glass window is the agricultural zone, where they tend to all the food and water requirements to survive on the ship. For my entire life, and those that came before me, this sort of life is all we've known. All the erythrals work to make sure the entire ship's occupants are taken care of, including the obsidian people who live and work in the lower half of Zaya. They maintain the ship to make sure it always functions without problems. It's all for the good of everyone else, and yet as we all strive to make society function seamlessly, it just seems dull. Void of something I can't place my finger on. I gaze a little longer at the greenery, lost in thought, before getting to work. The onslaught of backlogged data keeps my mind preoccupied until I notice Ever move in the corner of my eye. I don't pay much heed to it until I hear a clattering of glass and metal. He's teetering on the edge of a shelf, and the objects set in it look as though they're about to come crashing down. I dash out of my chair and pull him away from the shelf, just before a few data pads and vials smash onto the floor. I quickly sweep my gaze over to him to see if he's alright. Are you hurt? He swallows and shakes his head, and he points to the ventilation system on the floor by the wall. I gasp in horror as I just see Elder Dara's pendant slide through the gap in the vent cover and fall into the shaft with a series of fading clings and clangs. No!
no.
I scramble to the vent and peer through the vent cover. All I can see is darkness and feel the cold air wash over me.
I didn't realize. When I left the apartment this morning, I must have had it in my pocket and I forgot to put it back in the box.
Ever crawls next to me and whispers an apology.
I'm sorry. It's alright, it's not your fault, it was my responsibility. I shouldn't have been so careless.
I stand and start pacing back and forth across the room, running my hands through my hair, dreading the disappointed look I was going to get from Eldadara.
What do I do?
I mutter over and over again like a mantra, trying to think of how I was going to explain it to her.
I'm small enough to fit into the vent. I can go in and get it. No, that's... the obsidian people are down there. It'll be too dangerous for you. However...
I breathed deeply, mulling over what I was about to attempt to do.
I have to go down. You just said it was dangerous. It's my responsibility. Getting it back is part of that responsibility. I know I sound contradictory, but that's just the way it needs to be. I'm not going to risk your life, but I'm not going to risk your life, but I am willing to risk my own for it.
This is breaking the rules, isn't it?
Probably yes. Well, yes, it is.
It's my fault, so I won't tell anyone.
It's not your fault, Ever, but I do appreciate you not saying anything.
After a little effort, Ever and I managed to pry the vent cover away and cautiously look in. It's dark, but there's a faint light filtering from somewhere further down, illuminating a bit of the shaft. There's a ladder leading directly down into the darkness, and I'm positive I'll find the pendant at the bottom.
I'm sure this won't take too long.
Ever nods, and I carefully slide in on my stomach, and my feet find the rungs easily. I'm not sure whether I'm shaking in fear or excitement at this point. I've never done anything like this. But that won't stop me. One foot after the other, I start my descent into the vent. With my hands following the movement of my feet, I hit the bottom without a problem. I get onto my hands and knees, feeling around for it. But after a bit of search, I know there's nothing. Suddenly a hand slips, but I catch myself before I fall forward. I feel a diagonal drop before me, and I debate whether or not I should continue. My guilt becomes my resolve, and I go head first into the unknown. Unfortunately, it's steeper than I first thought, and I can't stop myself from careening forward. I clench my teeth and hit the bottom hard. Pain flares through my arms, and I bite down a cry of anguish. I have to bear with it. Moving slowly but surely through the darkness, the metal beneath me begins to feel a bit unstable. Before I can even think of backing away, the vent groans and gives way under my weight. Oh dear. I'm greeted by the face of a shocked boy who stands, seemingly paralyzed, before me.
You're an obsidian.
He remains unresponsive, and I'm unsure of how I should handle this. Honesty's the best policy, right?
I've dropped something down here other than myself, so I'd like to just get it and go.
He gives a slight nod, which is a relief. At least he can understand me.
Could you help me out here? I'm a bit stuck on this not very stable piece of metal.
He blinks suddenly, taking a small step away from me, and I see in his expression how the current situation registers in his head. Right. Yeah, that. Okay. I have to stifle a nervous laugh as he mutters to himself, gently lifting me up and setting me down on the floor. He's surprisingly strong for his size.
Thank you for your help.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're welcome. I know I need to make this quick, but I'm very fascinated at the way his face seems to get redder by the second. So,
yes. This is not what I imagined my first meeting with an urethral would be like.
Actually, I never imagined meeting anyone like this. I mean, Ezra would probably pull a stunt like this, but you're not him, and I'm really not sure why I'm telling you this. I'm gonna shut up now. He's definitely not what Elder Dara told me Obsidian people were like. I suppose I could say the same about meeting an Obsidian, that is. My name is Mana. What's yours? I'm Aster. You're lovely. I mean, well, I mean to say that, your name is lovely. There we go. Nice to meet you, Aster. You said you, dropped something, I think? Yes, a pendant. I dropped it and it fell down the vent. Oh. Have you seen it? No. No, I haven't. Oh. This is not good. I wonder if it's still up in the vents or if it's somewhere else. I apologize for intruding on your work. I guess I have to go now. I gaze around the room, but I don't see the pendant anywhere. I realize I've spent far too long down here, and Ever might be getting concerned. I swallow hard. It's going to be terrible to tell Elder Dara about this. What does it look like? Oh, it's made of glass. It's oval in shape. It has a leaf inside it. It also has a small chain attached to it. Tell you what, I'll look for it around. Then if you come back tomorrow around this time, I'll tell you whether I found it. Really? You'd do that for me? I don't see any reason why not. I work around this whole sector. I gotta fix that event anyway, so it's not really a problem. Sorry about the vent. I kinda half expected it. The last guy that worked here wasn't all that sober in his last days, so it's not all stable here. I see. Well, see you tomorrow then? Yeah. Let me help you back up there. After a bit of awkward shuffling, he helps me up with ease, and I climb back into the vent. Aster kinda looks like, Con-El. Superboy, I guess. For folks who don't comics. The small Superman from Young Justice for the people who really don't comics. And that's it. So are you going back? So are you really going back? Yeah, I have to try at least. I mean, he seemed reasonable enough. If you think that's best. Later that evening, I return to the apartment I share with Elder Dara. Thankfully, she doesn't bring up the pendant. We talk about her work with the council as we sit together and eat our dinner. She's one of the oldest members in the council, and quite possibly the wisest. Even though it may not seem like it at times, she has a heart of gold. When I was about 3 years old and orphaned with no home, Elder Dara took me in and raised me. I was a strange child. I cried a lot more than other Erythro children did. I disturbed the peaceful atmosphere they tried to create, and no one really knew what to do with me. Throughout my childhood, I was deemed too loud and boisterous around the other children my age, something which I managed to tone down over the years, but I didn't feel happy about where I was. There seemed to be a wall between me and others that I couldn't breach. So I spent a lot of time alone, exploring Zion and creating imaginary friends who'd join me on my adventures. That got me into trouble too. The worst was when I decided to take an elevator down to the obsidian. The worst was when I tried to one more time. That got me into trouble too. The worst was when I decided to take an elevator down to the obsidian zone to see what the fuss was all about. Elder Dara nearly had a coronary when she found out about that. Regardless, she was always good to me. She understood my thirst for knowledge and brought me along to the archives sometimes while she worked. And I would peruse the files for hours on end, learning everything I could about our history, our old world, and the people that lived in it. How was your first day of working at the laboratory? It was great. I managed to get in the swing of things relatively quickly. I also met the child prodigy Ever. I work in the same room as him. Ah, Ever. Such a bright child.
Many of those I work with talk of him. He's not too difficult for you to get along with. No, he's quite sweet, although he seems rather timid. I suppose that's because I'm a bit, you know. There's nothing wrong with you, Mana. Just try not to overwhelm him with your irrepressible inquisitive tendencies. Yes, ma'am. The following day, I become rather antsy and I get to lab early to do some work ahead of time before heading down into the vents once more. Aster is not alone when I arrive at the bottom of the vents. Another young obsidian walks in and I remain very still and quiet while I listen. What's up? Ezri, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be working?
I am working, you dolt. I'm busy running errands for Akiva.
Again?
What do you mean again? I told you I'd be doing this all week. For you know what, remember?
Oh, for that girl you were eyeing the other day?
Shut up, you know why?
You obviously don't have an errand involving me, so why are you here?
What? I can't just stop by to see how you're doing?
I'm not an idiot, Ezri. Spit it out.
Fine, I want to borrow that gadget of yours. The one that makes the fancy light show everybody loves.
Of course you do. Aster walks to his backpack and rummages through it. Aster walks to his backpack and rummages through it before bringing out a peculiar cylindrical object. He hesitates before handing it to his friend. That looks like a kaleidoscope. Just bring it back in one piece, okay?
I will be the epitome of caution.
I mean it, Ezri.
I know. I know what this thing means to you. I'll promise I'll be careful. Anyway, I gotta go before Akiva gives me the evil eye again. See ya.
Don't try too hard to impress her. It's not for a girl. Yeah, right, I'll believe it. Wait, no. I had the voices backwards there. Don't try too hard to impress her.
It's not for a girl.
Yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. Idiot. I think it's safe now to let him know I'm here. I give 2 knocks on the vent wall and Aster turns to the sound. Is that you, Mana? Yes, it's me. Alright, I'll help you down. That person that was just here, he's your friend? Friend is a bit of a strong word to use with him sometimes, but yeah, he's my friend. Since, well, forever, I guess. So, about that pendant of yours. I didn't really have much luck finding it yesterday. The vents are pretty complicated lower down, so I haven't quite covered everything yet. 2 pairs of eyes are better than 1. If you show me an area, I'll look around for it. If you have work to do, I can look around on my own. That's fine, I got a little time to kill. Aster shows me around the area, and it's just as complex as he says it is. Where's my water? There are vents leading to all sorts of places all over the ship, and pipes along the ceiling that spew steam through holes in a few places. He tells me it's one of the many things he has on his checklist to repair. There's a room with an array of brightly colored wires tangled up and hung up. There's a room with an array of brightly colored wires tangled up and hung up all over machinery, and another room with luminescent cylinders that emanate a terrible heat. Those cylinders distribute the reusable energy to all the various places they need to go. I find what he tells me so interesting, I almost forgot the reason why I came here in the first place. He brings me to a walkway not too far from his zone, and I'm left in awe of it. There are apartments here, but they're as quiet as most of the people who live there, as if they're working. There are apartments there, but they're quiet as most of the people who live there are working their shifts or sleeping. Aster says it's that way because of overcrowding in some sectors. So while one group works, the other rests. As interesting as the obscured view of the beyond is, the smog created by the machinery is stifling, so we don't stay there long. For all that I ask him about everything we see, he in turn asks me about how I live and how things work above. As fruitful as our conversations are, our search, however, turns up nothing, and I decide to risk another day to come down tomorrow again. When
When I arrive back at work again, Ever is completely absorbed in the data pads in front of him. He doesn't notice when I come in. I sit down to work and leave him be, returning the friendly nod an agricultural worker gives me on the other side of the glass as she carries a crate filled with fruit away. I ignore the subsequent rumbling in my stomach. I need to catch up on work before my next visit with Aster. I turn to face Ever, who stands awkwardly beside me. How can I help, Ever? Can you give this to Captain Colm, please? The head researcher needs me for something else. He has a data pad clutched in between his little hands in an iron grip. What is it? I can't tell you. Oh, okay, so I'll be carrying some sensitive information, will I? Don't say anything. I was just joking, Ever, don't worry. I won't peek at it or blurt it out to anyone. Right. He hands me the data pad, and I head out to the bridge, where the captain most probably is at the moment. I'd literally run into him a few times in my youthful exploits, and he'd graciously let me watch him pilot the ship every so often. I smile at the memory. He's a good man. I don't think there's anyone who's met him who hasn't liked him. Hello, Captain Colm?
Meta? It's been a while. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. What brings you here today?
Ever sent me on an errand. Told me you needed to get this? He takes the data pad and skims over it. I'm itching to know what it is, but I hold my tongue. It's obviously not my business to know.
Thank you for this, Mana. Tell Ever I appreciate his efforts. Sorry, there's some notifications. They're making me crazy.
I will. As the days go by, my hope for finding the lost pendant dwindle, but I get better about sneaking away and lying about my whereabouts. I feel conflicted about all this and wonder if I'm doing the right thing. I lay awake in bed for hours stressing over it. Aster's good company though, and I feel like we get along better. I feel like I get along better with him than any other Erethrals I talked with. We just seem to be on the same wavelength. We tell each other little stories about amusing moments in our lives, and sometimes he let me help him with the repair work. One topic that Aster found very interesting was the weather. Apparently our old planet Melchior had fascinating phenomena occurring all the time. I told him all I knew about it from the days I spent in the archives. Sometimes we would watch obsidians from afar after a long and draining search for the pendant. He took me to a cage fight once where some obsidians were having it out with one another. Apparently it was a stress reliever for them, and Aster even took part in it when he felt he needed to blow off steam. He and Ezri would take out their grievances they had with one another every time they had disagreements. Fortunately, there were others around to referee them so they wouldn't, kill each other, but it seemed like a rather frightening activity after all. I decided I'd rather not see it again, for the sake of my nerves. As much as I enjoyed all the conversations we had and the side trips we made, I knew that it would all have to come to an end soon. I decide that today is the last day. If I can't find it today, I have to let it go. When I drop down into Aster's zone, he's not there, but his backpack and tools are, which means he can't be too far away. I pace around a little restlessly while I wait for him, but I grow bored quickly. I know he's told me not to leave the area without him, but I'm curious to see what he's up to. I step out of the room into a pitch-black corridor. If memory serves me, I take a right here and then a few lefts, and then I'll find that walkway we were at earlier. My intuition is correct, and I find the walkway easily. I hear Aster's laughter echo in the distance, and I make sure to crouch down before looking out to the source. I peer around the corner and spot Aster and his friend Ezri talking together, not too far away from me.
Aster,
What?
you're my buddy, aren't you?
Not when you start your arguments like that.
I don't want to argue. I just want us to have an understanding.
You're just trying to make light of the lecture you're about to throw at me.
Just shut up and listen to me. You're still on board with us, right? You're not having second thoughts, are you?
No, I'm not.
Stars above, Aster. You're seriously flaking out, aren't you? After everything that's happened.
No, that's not it. I'm just tired of all this. It's been hard to keep it up, okay? Between my work and all the side jobs you and Akiva shoved me into. I'm just struggling to juggle it all. I have enough on my plate already.
Okay, I get it. We have trusted you with a lot. It's just important that all this works.
You think I don't know that? Because I do.
Good to hear. I'm holding you to that. We're all meeting back at the core in 3 hours for an early roll call.
I'll be there, just let me get back to work, alright?
Fine, I'll see you later. Lighten up, okay, buddy? You're doing good.
Yeah.
And behave yourself. Don't do anything I wouldn't.
Practice what you preach, you moron. Huh. Get it together, Aster, seriously. He turns and makes his way back, and I hurry back to Aster's workplace, with conflicting thoughts swirling through my head. Hey, Mana, sorry. Did you wait long? Not really, no. Is something wrong? I can ask you the same thing. No, nothing. I'm fine. Are you doing alright?
I'm alright. You ready to go look around some more?
Yeah. It's no use. I'm never gonna find it. Hey now, don't be like that. I need to face the facts that it's gone. I have to tell Elder Dara that I failed her, that I'm irresponsible. It was an accident, wasn't it? And I'm sure she'll understand and forgive you. I mean, if Esri lost anything of mine, it would hurt a lot, but I'd probably want to kill him.
Actually, no, I would kill him. Comparing you to Esri is a terrible example. Forget I said that. What I'm trying to say is it's not the end of the world. Something unavoidable happened, and you're facing an indomitable problem. But maybe the repercussions of admitting defeat won't be as bad as you think it is. And hey, if nobody ends up dead by the end, then it really isn't all that bad, is it? You Erythrals don't kill each other over stuff like that, right? No, we don't. Oh good, I don't feel as inconsiderate as I did 2 seconds ago. I should really shut up and not make stupid comments.
It's okay. Thanks for trying to make me feel better.
You know what?
I got something better. Come on, let's get back to my sector. It's somewhere around here. Got it. I use this whenever I'm sad. Or bored. It's fun and makes my day a little brighter. That's what your friend Esri wanted from you the other day. Yeah, I really regret the day I showed it to him, but never mind that. Let's go find a good place to use it. What does it do? You'll see. It's so dark in here, I can't see a thing. Yeah, that's kind of the point why we're here. I can barely make out Aster's form as he leads me through the dark. Okay, this spot should be good. Lie down. Lie down? Yeah, trust me. It's gonna be great. Okay. I lie down cautiously and he settles in beside me. You twist it like this and push this down. There we go. Oh, cool. All at once, the room lights up with a million bright lights dancing around the room. It's as though the entire universe has been compressed into this small space. See? Magic. His voice changed, and I looked at him confused. He sounds sad all of a sudden. Aster? What's wrong? Nothing, I just remembered something. The reason I don't really use it all that much, but it doesn't matter. It's not about me. Do you like it? It's wonderful. I'm glad you showed this to me. It's good. I'm glad too then. Aster. It's fine, just enjoy it. Don't let me put a damper on things. It seems as though hours pass as we lie side by side watching the little lights float around the room. It's so peaceful that I can forget about my worries. Just for a little while. After a long contemplation, Aster voices the thoughts that have been plaguing him. I don't get to see many stars where I live. We don't have windows looking out to space because we live so near to the core, where most of the reusable energy on Zion is manufactured and kept. since I was little, I really loved watching the stars. My parents used to take me every odd month or so to go to the higher floors and gaze out the windows. I was always really upset when we had to go back home. If I could have built a little makeshift box to live right there, I would have. My dad couldn't handle the forlorn expression I got on my face every time we'd left, so he decided to do something about it. He spent a lot of time scavenging for old parts in the zones he did maintenance work in, until he found what he was looking for. A few months after that, he worked tirelessly to build this thing. When he gave it to me, he said, "Now you have the universe in your pocket, kid. You use it whenever you want to see those stars you love so much. You never have to have that disappointed look on your face again." It was the best thing I'd ever gotten in my entire life. I had a stupid grin on my face for weeks to come. Stars. I miss him. He died? Yeah. A long time ago. Him and my mom, I'm sorry, It's okay. I didn't mean for you to relive something you didn't want to. It's fine. It's time to go. We have to get back before we're missed. Thank you, Esther, for all of this. Feel better now? I do. I'm really grateful. It's good. Listen, even though we couldn't find your pendant, do you think you'd be able to come see me again? I mean, I know you've been taking a big risk coming down here every time, but I don't know. Having you over as frequent company has really grown on me. I have to see how things go when I tell Ladara about the pendant. I can't really promise anything. I understand. So I guess I should say goodbye if we never... Yeah. Right. Goodbye then, Ron. It was nice to get to know you. It was nice spending time with you too. Goodbye, Esther. When I arrived back at the apartment, Elder Dara is sitting at the table and drinking her tea. I step in and walk towards her nervously, my legs shaking. I sit down. I try to formulate the best way to bring up her missing pendant. If I don't tell her now, it'll be worse later. Before I can start, she speaks. You're seeing an obsidian boy. Huh? What? Who told you that? Has he done anything strange? Well, he's not exactly what you told me obsidians would be, if that's what you mean. Has he put you in some sort of uncomfortable situation? Did he hurt you in any way? No, he's not like that. He's very nice and he's been helping me. Helping you with what? Something that I need help with? Why are you asking all these questions suddenly? Am I going to be punished? Mana, don't ever see him again. But why? I know we're supposed to stay away from each other, but maybe it's not all that. Stop that. It's that naive line of thinking that got your mother into trouble. My mother? That's the first time you've mentioned her. What do you know about my mother? What happened? I never wanted this day to come. I've always wanted you to remain pure, untainted by that dreadful past. But I have no right to continue to keep this from you. Many years ago, there was an effort by a small group of hopefuls that hailed from both the Erythrals and the Obsidian Zones. They wanted to try to see if we could coexist with one another. They set up a neutral area where any Erythral and Obsidian could converse with one another. Your mother was one of the Erythrals who volunteered to participate in this subject. She was so bright, so young, and naive. She was brave, one of the first to step forward and sit down with an Obsidian to talk. At first, things seemed to be going well. They would alternate every so often with different people to play her and document how they got along. Then it all changed with a certain man. He became taken with your mother after several meetings with her. It quickly escalated to obsession. And then one day, while highly intoxicated, he caught her alone and hurt her. He took the light from her eyes. He stole her innocence. Mana, these people are not who you think they are. They are impulsive and irrational. They live for the thrill of it and flippantly disregard the consequences of their actions. It's who they are. What happened to them? That man had no remorse for what he'd done. He believed he could do whatever he wanted with her. Claimed that she'd wanted him as much as he wanted her. He was irredeemable. So he was given the worst punishment our system has and ejected from the airlock before death. Your Your mother was never quite the same after that. She was devastated. Then she found out she was pregnant. Pregnant with you. It was so strange there was this determined aura around her after that. Despite being offered the chance to abort you, she refused. She believed that anything that grew had life and said that she had no right to decide your fate, that you were the one that should live to decide that for yourself. Some people disagreed with her actions, and because of that, people haven't always treated you the way they should, but know this. Despite everything that has happened and that will ever happen, I will always love you. I don't want to see you get hurt. Please, heed my warning. Never go down there again. I open and close my mouth several times, but no words can formulate in my head. I can barely grasp the information I've just received, and I stare numbly at the table. Take some time to work through this, alright? I barely register when she leaves our apartment and the tears begin to stream down my face. I don't see Aster again for weeks to come. For the first few days, I try to deal with the flood of conflicted emotions. After that, I decide to get up and get back to work again. I throw myself into work. Ever and I don't talk that much. Nearly a month later, while I'm poring over some work on a data pad back in the apartment, I hear a bang come from the bathroom. What was that? I get up to go see what's happened. Hi. Aster, how did you find me? With a lot of investigation and a few favors I collected on. After that, it was just finding a good route to navigate through the vents and get here. Mana, what's wrong? What should I say? It's been a month and I still don't know how to comprehend all this myself. If I tell him, will it change everything up till now? We can tell Aster and we cannot tell Aster. I'm gonna leave it on a cliffhanger, actually. We're gonna come right back later this week. We're gonna hit save. And we're gonna come back next week. We're gonna come back next week, and then we're gonna find out what happens when we decide to either tell Aster or not tell Aster. So this was a really interesting stream. The Chronotopia was really, really well done. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for when it actually comes out, because then we'll definitely play again. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you're watching this on the stream VOD, thank you. These are really long videos, and I know they're a little bit difficult to watch all in one sitting, but I kind of don't want to split them up and make them, I don't want to spam a bunch of videos on Saturdays, because that's the only time stream VODs can go up, just because that's how I have it set up, and I don't want to really change it. So, anyway, thanks for tuning in. See you guys later.